This is Josh back to you with another episode of the USAC Midwest Thunder Midgets Monthly, joined by race director Greg Watson, announcer Christian Dunn, social media and engagement director Bella Hall, and UNOH student race director Audrey Gerberding. Everybody, thanks for jumping on with me.
Glad to be here. Thanks, Josh.
All right, so this is going to be something a little bit different. We're going to be behind the scenes. We're going to take a look at what it takes to promote and conduct a race event. Everybody out there, like myself, we're fans. We go to have a good time, but you really don't know what goes on behind the scenes and how much work goes into making those races tick. It's important. I've talked about it time and time again. The USAC Midwest Thunder Midget Series is a series that strives to make racing feasible for the drivers, to make it feasible for fans to show up, to make engagement with fans something that you want to come back and check out. And it's also the schedule. I've talked about this time and time again, a great schedule, and I'd put it up against a lot of folks around the area. Great schedule year after year. And to wrap it all up, in the end, the racing is just as good. These folks here are joining us today to talk about what it takes to put on a show. Greg, let us know about the series evolution between you and Chuck and why the talent that you have, not only in the car, but behind the scenes, matters in making these races happen.
Yeah, thank you, Josh. A lot of people probably don't realize that in terms of the USAC affiliation, that's really just branding. Meeting with the prior president of USAC, Kevin Miller, the agreement that we landed on back 10 years ago was that we could use the USAC brand, the logos and so forth, but we're not supported in any way other than some sponsorship support through the Hoosier Tire organization. We don't have any of the resources available to us that USAC typically has. You've seen the great team that they have announcing on Flow Racing, the support behind the scenes with Richie Murray and the crew of people that make everything happen at the USAC level. When Chuck and I started out in 2015, 16, I guess, it was just the two of us, and we didn't really have a budget to be able to bring people in and make things happen. So we did the best we could with the skill sets that we had, and were able to build something over the years that we were pretty happy with. But I think, we came to the realization that there are a lot of things that could be done better, beyond the abilities that we had, and we felt it was important that we start bringing others into our organization. And that was kind of, it kind of came back to me a couple of weeks ago. We had the opportunity to be a part of a Dayton Auto Racer fan club monthly meeting. If you're not a part of DARF, I encourage you to reach out to that organization. It's only $25. You get discounted admission if you're a fan. If you're a driver, they do some great things, have forever. Like I remember back in the 1970s and 80s, DARF was around and helped out drivers that had been injured. They still do that today. So for just a little bit of money, it's great to support that organization. But they invited Chuck and I, along with Aaron Fry from the Boss and Fast, kind of combined all that into one word. The Boss and Fast organizations, and we had a great discussion. Aaron is, and I told him that night, he's one of my heroes, mostly because he has a midget in his living room. And I just think that's so cool. And my wife's never going to let me put my vintage midget in the living room. But to hear him talk about running now 3 series, I think the new one in Southern Ohio, I've forgotten
the Gladiator series.
Yeah. So 3 series, multi-state, it's sometimes both, multiple series running in one, on the same night. And it's really him and his daughter and maybe 1 or 2 other people that make all that happen. So it kind of reminded me of, that's probably the norm, for most series, that they run lean, they have a small budget, they're doing a lot of work that people just don't realize. And so for us, I think that's shifted the last couple of years as we've tried to provide opportunities for others that are interested in racing, want to be involved in some way. And honestly, from my perspective, the way I think about it, and this is kind of a carryover from my day job, we need to be bringing in new talent and providing opportunities for people to gain that experience. Otherwise, maybe you run out of people that are interested in doing the kind of thing that Chuck and I are doing, and it doesn't happen anymore. So
Yeah.
I feel some responsibility to make sure that we're providing those channels for people to get involved and play a role and all that. The other thing that I think about is the importance of a brand when it comes to a series. What do you stand for? Who are you trying to be? And you're a great spokesperson for us, Josh, talking about, our grassroots focus and how we're trying to provide that opportunity for folks that may otherwise not be able to be involved in racing, or at least not midget racing. So, I think having ways to communicate that brand and demonstrate that brand is very important. So when it comes to Christian behind the microphone, telling our story to the folks in the grandstand, and when we have those opportunities to be on Flow Racing, having that broadcast over the streaming services, having Bella, be there with the TikTok and the social media support that she does, and kind of really is the behind the scenes story. Who are these folks? The guys and girls that make up our drivers roster, and what are they all about? And why are they there? And then to have Audrey being a part of that team that makes things happen. And I think really a role model for other young females who may say, well, racing's kind of a guy thing, right? And she's proven that it's not just a guy thing, that there's opportunities for females to be out there, and in a critical role for us to make sure that at the end of the night, everybody looks back and says, yeah, that went pretty well, and sometimes you're not even sure how it managed to go well, because there's always moments every race night when the wheels feel like they're coming off, and yet it all comes together in the end. So that's really my hope for the conversation today, is let people see how these three ended up becoming a part of our family, and why the things that they do are so important.
Yeah, it's well said. And, let's dive a little bit deeper in with each of them. And we're going to go ahead and start with Christian first. Christian, talk about first, where are you from? What is your day job? And do you have any interest outside of racing?
Yeah, I could talk for an hour on those questions, but I learned that from Greg. But anyways, I'm originally from Northwest Ohio. I live in Fort Wayne, Indiana now. Moved to Fort Wayne because I'm a big hockey fan. So when I'm not going to the racetracks all summer long, I'm traveling to various ice rinks, and we have a team here. So honestly, hockey was the only reason I moved here to Fort Wayne. I work in healthcare at a local hospital here. Been there for 10 years. Just switched over to night shift. This is my second week on nights, so I'm still adjusting a little bit, but I'm enjoying it more because it's able to get me. I have more time to work on notes. I get home from work, and it's that time of year now, mid-March, where I start working on race notes for the upcoming season. So that third shift actually works really well there. But yeah, from Northwest Ohio, Lima Land and Waynesfield were my two tracks growing up that I went to a lot, and unfortunately, when I moved to Indiana, it was Gas City I went to on a regular basis, and that's no longer the case. But here we are.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. We could talk a long time about these questions. I did not know you were a hockey fan, but myself, I am also a large hockey fan. So it seems like, I don't know what it is about racing guys. I know quite a few guys in racing that are hockey fans. So I don't know if there's some kind of correlation there.
I work in the ticket office. at the Coliseum here in Fort Wayne as a part-time job. And you're right, you don't know. I see so many people from the racetrack coming in on the weekends to buy those tickets for the hockey games. So definitely good. Goes back and forth there between the two sports.
Yeah. So before you got into announcing with the USAC Midwest Thunder Midgets, you spent some time announcing kart racing. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I started in 2017 or 18, I don't remember, at Little Eldora Speedway. I was there for 2 seasons. That track stopped racing on a monthly basis. I then went to State Line Speedway in Eden, Ohio. I spent 2 years there. They ended up selling that track. It's a field now. So within 4 years, 2 of the tracks I worked at went under. Larry Bowes reached out to me. That's who I worked for at Little Eldora. He reached out to me and offered me the job at Gas City, their final year running. I also worked at Waynesfield at Winchester that year as well. So I still go back and do kart racing when time allows. I get a lot of calls, but I've been spoiled with timing and scoring working with the D2 midgets. So I don't do as many of those kart races as I used to. But I've done over 250 kart races since 2018.
Wow. Nice. Yeah. Yeah. I can't help but bring it up. You talk about, we're talking about midgets. We're talking about karts. We're talking about Little Eldora. I can't go watch the karts on Four Crown weekend anymore. And it looks like they put campsites there. I think the kart track is gone at Eldora.
Yeah, it's disappointing, but I get it. Every time I go to Eldora, whether it's with the D2s or just as a fan, the first thing I do is go over there to look at the track to see if it's still standing. Because, I mean, there's so many connections I made from just 2 years there. They only ran monthly, but there's so many connections I made from those 2 years. So many friends. So it's brings back a lot of memories to go there and look at that track.
Yeah, and you kind of hit on my next question there, which was, what early experiences kind of played a role into you taking the next step, if you will, and what some of those experiences that really stand out to you?
Well, for me, my experiences, all my next steps were based on tracks closing down. And that was so discouraging. I mean, it happened so many times in my young career, but I try to learn from all those experiences. Every race that I call, whether it's a kart race or a quarter midget race, even all of our D2 races, I sit back and I reflect on what I think what I did well on. I record every race I do too, and I go back and I listen to myself. Like, oh, you probably shouldn't have described it that way, or you can do this better. You did that well. But all my opportunities have come from meeting people at those racetracks. I mean, that's where I met Greg and Chuck was at Gas City. I was their house announcer. The series came in, and I even told Greg the one day that he was there. I don't even think he thought I was serious. I said, "Hey, if you're ever looking for a traveling announcer, hit me up." And he just kind of giggled, and that was I thought the end of that conversation. But we were able to have talks in the off season after Gas City closed down, and they brought me on.
Okay, so would you say that was really the first connection you had with the USAC Midwest Thunder Midgets?
At Gas City, yeah. Yep. That was, I mean, I remember that night. I remember who won. I remember what happened. It was just such a fun series to watch. And, traveling, even if it's just on the regional level, is always something I wanted to do. That was always my goal. So I didn't think it hurt to ask that question. That's kind of how I promoted myself throughout the years, is just to reach out on social media or email people and be like, hey, if you're looking for an announcer, please consider me. You don't even have to pay me, just consider me, and I will come. Let me show you what I can do. And that's what happened with Greg and Chuck, meeting them at Gas City. I knew the track halfway through the season probably wasn't coming back the next year, so I was just hoping and praying that plan worked with me reaching out to them.
So if I could jump in there for a second, I don't think Chuck and I had really ever thought about the idea of having an announcer that actually traveled with us. But one of the frustrations that I had over the years is that before each race, I would create a race day packet with a driver's listing that included, some notes about their experience, their background, their sponsors. I'd include information about our series sponsors and information about our last race and the races that was coming up. And these were all things that I had hoped that the announcer at the track would share. over the microphone, and then maybe people would get a better understanding of who our drivers are, and maybe decide, hey, that next race, I'll make plans to go. My success rate and getting that information actually shared was not fantastic. Some announcers better than others, and we've definitely had some good relationships with announcers at some other tracks along the way. But there were also a lot of I put all that work in, and they never read a thing off my packet the whole night. So and I do kind of look for those signs of somebody comes out of the blue and you're like, well, I could be really kind of suspect about this Christian guy. I don't know him. I heard him on the PA that night, but is this a risk that we should take with our series? And Chuck and I talked about it and thought, yeah, he's, Price is right. So sorry. But my pitch to him was, I can't promise you at this point that, we can pay you anything near what you're worth to us coming in, but I think I can expose you to a lot of people within this industry that may be able to be a benefit to you in your career down the road. So that was kind of the trade-off that we had initially. And I feel pretty good about the fact that we have been able to give Christian that exposure. He's certainly held up his end of the bargain and done a great job. And now those opportunities come to him. And, I think it's natural to say, well, boy, I don't want Christian to leave. And I don't. But if he does, then we can point to, well, look at the last guy that was in that chair and look at the opportunities that he was able to create for himself by doing a good job within our series. So, it's kind of like the Jacob Denny's and the Jacob Boxels and those guys. You hate for the drivers to leave, but then you can also talk to the other potential, people coming into the series. And it's like, that's what this series can do for you too. So
Yep.
I think it certainly benefited both of us, Christian and our series, to have him join, and continues to grow in that role.
Yeah, well, and you hit on a few things there. First of all, you don't have to worry as much about him getting sponsorship out there, which is really a big deal, not only for the series, but the drivers and teams as well. He's going to hit on that, but it's going to be more genuine. It's going to be more real. It's going to be more of memory for Christian when he's following you guys from track to track and race to race. And it's just going to come out, I think, a lot easier than if you're trying to feed it to some guy weekly. So I think it's a great thing. And, I've been at the track and I've heard Christian call, and you could tell he's comfortable with it. And that's a good thing from my perspective.
He's also been willing to share the spotlight a bit, and we definitely appreciate that. He's had Bella in the tower with him, and I think that certainly adds a lot to the race call and the perception that people have of our series. He had Jim Jones, I know one of the drivers that has been interviewed here on your podcast. Jim's a storyteller, and he brought an interesting perspective that night to the the announcing as well. So we appreciate that Christian is willing to share that spotlight, bring other people in, and add to the show.
Yeah, and I think Christian, some of the stuff that Greg's talked about, I think you will probably use in answering this next question, but what do you feel are your most important responsibilities as the series announcer?
Yeah, I have 3. I write them down on my notes every single race that I do. The first responsibility of mine, in my opinion, I guess we never really talked about it, is to talk about our series, our goals, the background, how it started, where we're at today. The series is a focus. The second thing is our sponsors. It's my job to hit on the sponsors. I try to do it several times throughout the night and read their biographies, their history. And then the third thing is the drivers. It's about those 3 things: the series, the sponsors, and the drivers. I do say my name at the beginning of my night and at the end of my night, introducing myself and then saying goodnight. And I do that just simply for possible future opportunities. I do want people to know my name and know the name behind the voice, but my 3 focuses are definitely those things.
No, and that makes sense. I mean, it's hard to argue that, and I think, in our conversation prior to that that was kind of some of the stuff that was mentioned there between Greg and I. So I think even though you didn't run it past them, I think you're on the right track there.
Yeah, I try to, before I do anything, I feel like I do a good job at reaching out to him or Chuck just to get their idea on something, because obviously I don't want to misrepresent the series when I'm doing my thing.
Sure.
I
So
just had a conversation earlier today with someone where I characterized myself as a bit of a control freak, but I think, Chuck and I both feel a responsibility to the fact that we've created something here that people have invested their time and their money and their interest in. So we do feel a big part in making sure that what we do stays consistent to what we view as important around the series. But it's also important that that's not just us, right? So when it's, these guys or even others that may get involved down the road, I probably am not going to give them free reign to go do anything and everything. I'm going to give my feedback, but it's meant in a way that makes us all better, right? And
Sure.
Christian certainly earned the right to go down whatever path he feels is appropriate, because I know he always has our best interest at heart.
Yeah. And I know, Christian, I know of some opportunities that you've had, but why don't you tell the folks that are checking this out, what announcing opportunities have you had outside of the USAC Midwest Thunder Midgets?
Yeah, so opportunities that I received from a direct, me being part of the Midwest D2 Midgets, I've had phone calls for a quarter midget series, which unfortunately I did not follow up with. But currently, the last 2 seasons I was at Millstream as their house announcer. The only reason I got that job was because of being there with the D2s, and that's how I got to meet the management there, the Cogley family. We had a really good conversation, and they brought me on in 2024 and 2025 as their track announcer. And then going back to Montpelier, when Ryan Sutter reopened it, we went there. I established a relationship with all of them. And on Saturday nights when I'm not with the D2s, I'm at Montpelier doing their kind of color commentating. I'll go down to the infield to do the driver interviews, infield reporting, all that fun thing. So those are the big ones that I've had. I try, it's easy to not turn them away because you're so excited, but it does cause some scheduling conflicts for me. So I have to be a little bit careful moving forward, as yes, it's great to have these opportunities, but it's also very easy to overbook myself. So I'm grateful for the Millstream and Montpelier experiences I've had as a result of being with the D2s.
Yeah. Yeah. And, glad to see, those tracks around. I mean, you were talking about tracks going away. And it's good to see tracks doing the opposite of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Next up, Bella Hall. Bella, tell us your hometown, your occupation, and what interest you have outside of racing. I understand you might be a coach of a certain sport.
Yes, so not quite a hockey fan like you guys, but hometown, originally from Pleasant Hill, Ohio. I now live in Arcanum, so it's just a quick jaunt away, but I'm out here in the country as well. My actual day job is I actually work at a boutique, and I know that correlates nothing with racing, and I get that a lot, but I work at a boutique. That's the part of me that is still like the girly girl that loves fashion and jewelry and all this stuff. So that is my actual day job. Other than that, I coach volleyball. I played volleyball all through high school. I played in college. So now I coach a traveling team of like 16U, and then I also have the junior high team for my high school. So I went back to there and coached the junior high team, hoping to kind of just work my way up in that a little bit. But my club team, I also coach for the club team that I played for in high school. So I kind of just keep circling back. So I guess they like me somewhat. But and then my other little job is obviously this, being the media and engagement director for the series, which is one of my newer titles, and I'm loving it so far.
Awesome, awesome, and you're doing good work with that. And you and I have actually known each other for a little bit because you had to help your dad, Luke, get set up to come
Yes,
on
I
when we had an interview with him. So, first of all, thanks for doing that because I know
Yes.
he needed the help there. But what kind of impact has your dad's racing had on you growing up? Obviously, you're still involved in it now. I'm sure it was huge, and you were probably spending quite a bit of time at the track. But just talk about what kind of impact your dad's racing had on you.
Yeah, so obviously a lot. I was just asking my mom the other night when I was going over kind of our questions for this. I was like, when was I actually at a race for the first time? And she was like, well, you were at a shop 3 days after you were born. So I was like, oh, okay. So really right to it. But so that, and then, I mean, I was at the races by May of that year. I was born in January, and I was at the races in May. So I've literally been there pretty much my entire life. And I grew up dad when I kind of got to, the age of understanding things or whatever. Dad was in a lot of boss, still in some non-wing stuff, and running a lot of Waynesfield, Lima, that kind of stuff. So those are also the tracks that I kind of grew up around. Kind of had my own little group. Matt Westfall's daughter, Jasa, grew up with her because Matt was still racing the Boss Series. Corbin Hazlett's sister, Peyton, that was kind of my trio because, like we've kind of talked about, girls aren't really completely dominant in this sport, so you kind of had to find your little group and be like, I'll have my friends at the racetrack. But
There you go.
so I kind of just grew up around it all, the guys, as they would say, all my dad's friends, which are still how I create relationships to this day, because I just know a lot of people in the industry because of my dad. And it was definitely a different version of a childhood, probably for most people. I mean, my weekends weren't free to go to the sleepovers and all the stuff. I'm like, I'm going to the racetrack, so I can't come. But yeah, so it was it was different, but I mean, obviously it's led me to where I am now and let me meet a lot of great people. So
So you have the title of social media and engagement director. That sounds really important and way above my head. Can you explain exactly what that is?
So this is actually funny because I was talking to Audrey because we were the first two on here, and I was like, how am I going to define my title? I was like, I have a really big title, and I was like, I just make videos. I'm like, that's all I do. I was like, I just make videos. But so obviously I have the TikTok platform. I reached out to Greg after the first race of last season, which was Lima, I think. And I had just been, me being kind of the age I am, obviously I'm on social media and, all the things. And I had seen a lot of like professional sports teams, some of the bigger racing series, like their admin was just doing all these fun like videos and questions. And I was like, I was like, that would be kind of interesting to like do or whatever. Like, that'd be kind of fun, just like as a random thought. So I texted Greg and I was like, at this time, I didn't even have Greg's number. I had to text Greg through Facebook. And I was like, hey, Luke Cole's daughter, like, da da da. I was like, what would you think about this idea? And he was like, well, that'd be kind of fun, I think. Like, I don't see anything wrong with that. And I was like, all right. So the next race, I was like, we're going to do this. And I created an account on TikTok, and it was super funny because the day that happened, I had some of the guys from the series like send me a screenshot, and people were like, when did we get a TikTok, like da da da, and I was like, you weren't supposed to know about that yet. I wasn't going to tell you until we got to the track. But yeah, so kind of just my job is to make the TikToks, obviously push fan engagement, series engagement, try to grow the fan base, and just keep this little series and family that we've created growing, and hope to let people online, since most of the world today is social media, see the behind the scenes of our series, the behind the scenes of our drivers, who our drivers are, and just a little bit of a different side of them than just what they see on the track.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about this, Greg and I know I've talked about this with other people, but like you said, social media is really kind of driving things, and a lot of people are taking advantage of it. There are still some folks that are not, surprising to me. I don't claim to be tech savvy by any stretch of the imagination, but I found a way on getting this stuff out, whether it's YouTube or Facebook. And X has kind of transitioned for me, but for you, what was it about TikTok that made you want to use that platform?
So originally, only because that was just what I had seen a lot of the videos on, and I know with our series being majority younger, minus my dad, of course, majority younger drivers and stuff, I was like, maybe this will just help to kind of put interest in the series, just gain a little bit of a fan base. And I was like, Facebook already has, I mean, already had a Facebook page. So I was like, that has a good following and, crew and this and that. So I was like, maybe it'd be different to see if we can gain a different group of people, age ranges from different series and stuff. So I was like, maybe TikTok, a little bit of a different scene would be kind of interesting. And I had already known, some of kind of like the editing behind it, the videos, how it worked. And we do have like a Facebook platform for the TikTok, but I just take the TikToks and post them on there because of the people who are set to Facebook and don't want to get TikTok, which is completely fine. But so I kind of try to have it for both, but TikTok's definitely the main platform and where our bigger following is secure.
Okay.
So let me jump in there for a second, because it's kind of a theme, I guess, with Bella coming to me with the recommendation of this is something that we might want to think about. And, I think a lot of people that are interested in racing are hesitant to kind of put their name out there or volunteer for things because they think they, might get turned down or maybe don't have the experience to prove. But I think, you're seeing that Bella did this, Christian did this. They both kind of stuck their necks out there and said, give me a shot. And, we were happy and thrilled to have both of them do that. I hate to admit this. I think most people probably know within our series, but I do most of the Facebook stuff. So there's this sense of, oh, so you got this 63-year-old dude doing Facebook, how that's not cool. So when somebody like Bella comes to me and says, well, I'd like to help with that, there's a part of me is like, oh, please, because the diversity of perspectives, I'll say, that she has versus I have, she's going to bring things to that. But it was perfectly in line with where I felt that we were. And I talked about it earlier, but, we got the series, we've got the schedule, we've got the dates, we come and do the shows, but what's going to bring people back, I think, is connecting regardless. And, Bella's picking on her dad, one of the old guys, or the Jim Jones, the oldest guy. A lot of guys in the middle there. We certainly have all the way from 14 to, I think Jim's 74 now or whatever. I lose track. But there is somebody out there for everybody to look to and say, that's my favorite driver. And when I look back, when I was a kid and a race fan, I can't tell you why I had Lenny Waldo was my guy. None of you know Lenny Waldo, but he was a guy at Columbus Motor Speedway that raced USAC in the 70s and early 80s. I don't know why Lenny was my guy, but somewhere along the way, there was something that made me connect and decide to follow him. Mel Kenyon. There's certainly been others, but my goal is to, through what Christian's doing and what Bella's doing, give people the opportunity to get to know our drivers more than just a car number and a hometown and a paint job, but learn a little bit about their personalities so that they have an interest in knowing how Gunnar Lucius is doing, in terms of how did he finish last night, or is Gunnar Lucius going to be there next week if I go to the race, kind of thing. I'm, could have thrown in a whole bunch of different names there, but so to me, that I didn't know anything about TikTok. I'm still not on TikTok. There was a little bit of a leap of faith of, oh my goodness, she's going to go out there and say and do stuff. And I don't even have a way to really even check
You
in
can't
on
even
that.
monitor me.
So no. Yeah, that's a huge leap of faith for me, the control freak. So, but it's worked out great. And I see her as being another face of our series to the fans and to others who want to know more about us. So it's been great.
Yeah. And kind of back up a little bit, Bella, you kind of touched on it a little bit earlier in your introduction, and Greg's kind of touched on it here, but talk about the community with the USAC Midwest Thunder Midgets. Obviously, your dad's involved, but aside from that, just talk about the community and the relationship between the drivers and teams, and how important is that to you?
Yeah, so we actually joined, like I said, Dad came from a lot of non-wing boss kind of series before we got to the point where we are. We actually got our D2 ride from the Chili Bowl, and I'm still not entirely sure how this happened, but how I gather it is Drew Rader, one of our kind of teammates, I don't know, but he's part of our team, was running the Chili Bowl in 2019 and had broke his foot, and somehow my dad got the call and they were like, do you want to come race this midget at the Chili Bowl? And of course my dad was like, yeah, let's go, whatever. And so later on we kind of connected with Kyle Heitmeyer and our crew that we have now, and we ended up switching over to this series. I think we joined in 2022, I want to say. We're going on our third or fourth year. And I describe like moving series as like moving schools. You're like, you gotta be kidding me. Like a whole new group, a whole new everyone, like being the outsider. I'm like freaking out. I'm like, I really don't want to do this and whatever. And a little TMI on like the backside of my part of it, and this is the honest truth. I was actually at a really like bad low point in my life when we like came to the D2 series. So of course I was like, like I don't want to meet all these new people, all this stuff, and I ended up just clicking with everyone. It was like a crazy experience. I met obviously most of the guys that run, Bryce, Zach, JB, Braden, all those guys, and they kind of just took me in, and I was like, whoa, like this is like a friend group that I could get down with and have fun and all this stuff. And I was like, these guys are my age. Like I've ran with Dad's like older crew the whole time. I was like, these guys are my age. They can be my friends, like all this stuff. So I've really just grown relationships with them, and obviously all the drivers since then of us being in the series. So coming in as like an outsider was a different perspective when you just get taken in, and it was really nice. And the community has just been really important to me, and no matter how far I go in the racing world or where Dad goes, like it'll always have a place in my heart, and I know that. But yeah, and they're all just my best friends to this day. I mean, we hang out outside the racetrack on the weekends and all the stuff throughout the summer, and so it's really nice to just have a community that actually feels like family. So
Awesome. You've had a chance to jump in the booth with Christian.
yes.
What was that like?
That was literally on my notes. I'm not even kidding. It says awesome with an exclamation mark. So that's pretty much what I have to say with it. But with doing the TikTok, I was a couple of videos into the TikTok last season, and we were at Atomic, and Christian, I vividly remember I'm sitting on the back of a four-wheeler. Don't know whose four-wheeler it is, whatever. And Christian kind of walks by, and he's like, just so you know, like, if you ever want to come in the booth, like, I'd be more than happy to have you. And then kind of just, like, kept walking. And I was, like, looking around, like, did anybody else hear that? Like, whoever I was sitting around, because I was like, what the heck? And I was kind of like, are you serious? And he was like, yeah. So I think we got a ton of rainouts in the midst of that. And I think I ended up texting him and was like, hey, do you still, like, is this offer still there or whatever? He was like, yeah. So I got in the booth. I think Millstream was my first one, and he can attest that I was so nervous, freaking out. And I was kind of like, okay. And I always tell everyone that like compliments me on how good I do or whatever, this and that. I'm like, it's just because I love to talk. Like that's the only reason I'm good at it. Same with the TikTok. I'm like, I just love to talk. And so it was kind of fun. It's awesome being with Christian, and we just work really well off of each other, I think. Like when his thought ends, I'm like, oh, I can say this. And I think we kind of just banter back and forth really well. And having just two different perspectives, I think, is cool, which he knows, like, the drivers, the technical side of this, and with me doing the TikTok and knowing most of the racers I like friends, I can be like, well, they're actually like this, or like, haha, like this is the behind the scenes of that. So I think it's a good like team of us together to be able to throw both sides of that in there.
Yeah. And Greg, I know you've got a Journey concert coming up. So
I can't
before
leave
we-
until I hear Audrey's story, and then I'll go.
yeah, but
So
before
I'll
you
hang
get
around
going, let's chat with Audrey here real quick. Audrey, your hometown, your occupation, and interest outside of racing, and it sounds like you recently got yourself a motorcycle.
I did. I'm from Illinois, so I am like in no way, shape, or form familiar with any of these Ohio people. They're all foreigners to me. I moved out here for school. I go to UNOH. I'm a full-time student working with the series on the weekends, and then I'm part of the school's race team as well. So I pretty much have no time for anything. But I did this last fall get myself a motorcycle license, and I do now have a bike. So I actually recently just moved into a place that has a garage. So as soon as I can get back to Illinois to get my bike, it's coming out here. So yeah.
That's good. Well, I'm sure you're excited for the opportunity to get back to Illinois and get your bike moved over here to Ohio. So I understand you have an extensive racing background. What type of racing did you do, and how did that come about?
So I started on dirt oval quarter midgets in like 2013. I was 6, or maybe I think I just turned 7. And there was somebody my dad knew that had done the open go-kart, and my mom was at the track one day when somebody got hurt, and she said, "You're not doing that. So you need to find something with a cage that has seatbelts." And my dad was like, "All right, that's fine." And he knew somebody that had a daughter that had a pink cart that had pink sparkles all over it, and I went and sat in it for like ever, and they had to like pull me out of this cart, and it just went downhill from there. So we ran quarter midgets for a couple of years. I made the switch over to the outlaw carts. I did a little bit of go-karting stuff when my mom wasn't around. We went back to go quarter midgets for a year. I've got a younger brother that my dad wanted to put through quarter midgets for like the novice training program. That year was also the year we went to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and made a lap on the big track. We hold the record that year for the most cars on the track that year. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
From there, the go-kart thing kind of died off where we were. Everybody was moving up, and I didn't want to stay in the open wheel stuff. It wasn't the direction I wanted to go. And we found a class that was called Kids Mods. It was a stepping stone class. It was like an 8 to 16. Really good class. It was sort of like this. We traveled to 10, 12 tracks a year. It was to get familiar with the tracks, kind of get yourself in a spot before you went and maybe jumped into a full mod or a full size car. It was a full size car, but you had a smaller motor and you just kind of had a little bit more learning experience. And then I was one of the older ones in that group, so I ended up aging out of that series, and we ended up making a jump into a full size UMC A mod, and we ran that. That was like 21, 22. So when I moved out to college, summer of 24, I had been in that car basically 2 full seasons, 3 full seasons. And I ended up moving out here, and it's just so hard to get home, and it's not feasible for me to run that car anymore. I would still love to drive it. I still drive anything I can get my hands on, but I've kind of stepped away from driving at the moment.
Well, I'm sure you're busy. You know, obviously you're helping with the USAC Midwest Thunder Midgets, but obviously going to school there at UNOH, and you're on the UNOH race team. So what are your responsibilities with the team?
My responsibilities vary by day. So to get onto the team, you have to go through this big, extensive interview process. And about the time that I was going through all the interview process with that was the time that the series had put some stuff out and said, hey, we're looking for people. And I had not heard from the team yet. They had kept saying they were going to do interviews, and I still hadn't heard anything. And so I emailed the instructor and was like, hey, I have this other opportunity with USAC, and I would really like to take that, but the whole reason I'm at UNOH is because they have a dirt modified team. Like, that was my entire culture of school. And so I emailed him and I was like, hey, I'm here for you, so either come interview me or I'm going somewhere else. And so he pulled me that next week and said, okay, we're coming. And I did my interview and I got on there. But you start first year on a stock car. This year, I've now completed a full season. I did everything from changing tires to drive lines to the jacks to anything and everything I could get my hands on. It's kind of a weird step for me, as always running my own program. Kind of having to be part of somebody else's program was a little eye-opening for me, just seeing how everybody else kind of ran. And I think it was good for me. Because I couldn't get home to do my own stuff, I would like sit and fidget with stuff, and so this kind of gave me that outlet. Most recently, we took a trip the team goes to Florida every year for Speed Weeks. And I did all of the social media for 2 weeks in Florida. We ended up in Florida. It kind of got thrown my direction and I just kind of took it over. And Bella, I love you because I will never be doing that ever again. It's not happening. Not doing it. You can have it. I don't want it.
It's stressful,
it was a fun
isn't
2
it?
weeks, but that's it. It was 2 weeks and it's over. I can't do it. I can't do it. So I've recently taken on an even more of a leadership role with some of the stock car stuff. Now that we're kind of back in the swing of things, getting cars ready. Our season starts in like 4 weeks at Limeland. So we're like really in the heavy push to get stuff going.
Well, it sounds like you've had a lot of different roles involved in racing, but now as the UNOH student race director with USAC Midwest Thunder Midgets, what does a typical race day look like for you?
So typically I'm at the track about the time that pits open. Go meet Chuck and Greg at whoever's trailer we're balancing out of that night. Setting up transponders. I am in charge of passing out transponders, getting everybody signed into my race pass. It handles pill draw. It handles all that. And then from there, you've got to set stuff into some lineups and some simple stuff. And then my race pass pretty much handles it, which is really nice. You pretty much just plug it all in the transponders and it just goes, okay, and takes it and runs with it. And I don't really have to do much. And then as far as just kind of wherever else Chuck and Greg need me for stuff, going down to the infield. I've ended up in the booth with Christian a couple times. I will not get on the microphone. I won't do it. He tried. I won't do it. But just kind of wherever I can be and wherever I can be useful at.
What has surprised you most in being a race official?
That's a hard question because I think I've seen every side of stuff now. And I think that was the one side of stuff I didn't get to see all the time. When we were running go-karts, my mom did some of it, so I saw a little bit of it. But I think really like being the face that everybody says, okay, I need lineups. And you're like, oh, I don't know. You got to go into the computer and do all that. And like, I think just seeing the other side of it, as I've been on the racing side and I've been on the crew side, but just being able to look at it from that third point of view has been a real eye opener for me. And I think, no, I've never told anybody this, so you're the first. I think I went from a point where I moved out here to college. I was like, I'm going to drive. I'm going to crew for somebody. I think this has really opened that other door where I've realized that there's another opportunity open. And I think I kind of want to follow that path. I think I kind of want to step away from the driver and the crew thing. So I think that's really given me that opportunity to really follow a different path that I didn't realize was there.
Interesting.
Wow.
And that's
Wow.
good. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Big news tonight.
Yeah. That is.
Well,
That
let me
is,
jump in here again,
yeah.
just a couple of things. I know on an earlier podcast, we probably talked about the UNOH program, but first off, we're blessed to have an institution like that here in Ohio. It attracts a lot of racing talent from all over the country. Obviously, the tie-in with Lima Land Speedway is amazing because they get that work experience and that real life experience of being part of race teams and seeing how all that goes down. Uh, and again, Chuck and I, we're trying to juggle all the race day activities, everything that you just, heard Audrey talk about before. We were doing in an unautomated way, writing things down on notebook paper, and somebody's got to dash to the tower and give them the lineup or the redraw or whatever the case might be. So we made the decision to invest in the transponders, buy the subscription to My Race Pass. We felt like those technologies existed. They were a great enhancement, not only for the driver's experience, but for the track's interaction with our series and the fans being able to follow along on My Race Pass and get all the information that they provide is incredible. But it was more work, and Chuck and I are saying, how do we do this? So the decision with the transponders was kind of driven by the fact of, we don't want to charge our participants more money. How do we use money that they're already spending? And the tracks were renting transponders. We thought, well, if we buy our own, they can rent them from us. We talked to all the track promoters. For the most part, they were very supportive. Generally, they have a limited number of transponders available to them anyway. So if we brought our own, that was one less worry they had. So we took the money for the transponder rental. We used that to help offset the expenses of bringing in the UNOH kids. Randy Lucius, who works at UNOH, the father of Gunnar, one of our competitors, helped coordinate the interviews. Again, coming from a business background, working for a large corporation here in Central Ohio, my thought was, let's give them the experience. When we interview people, at the company I work for, that's something you got to learn, right? You get better if you've gone through that and you've seen what that's all about. So Randy conducted some interviews. I did some follow-up interviews with the finalists. We ended up landing on 5 students who participated over the course of the summer. But Audrey really separated herself from all the others. She took full responsibility of the role, constantly was coming to Chuck and I and saying, hey, this would work better if we did it this way. I'm like, go for it. That's what this is all about. So, I think she did earn a lot of respect from our competitors, from that community that we're talking about, as someone who came in and really, made a difference in how things worked last year. Now, it was a crazy year with all the rainouts and everything, but when I look back, that was one of the highlights for me of, the fact that Audrey and the others, but, Audrey as the leader among them, really brought a lot to our organization. So just thrilled to have them a part of all that. And that, we were talking about Bella and her title. Again, that's my business background, but hey, we can call her whatever we want. She can put that on a resume. And if somebody looks at that and says, well, that sounds pretty impressive, then more power to Bella. Right. So, same thing with Audrey, the experiences she's had, the people that she's had the opportunity to meet and be in the tower with or interact with as a part of the race day activities. Hopefully, she's already having thoughts about where this might take her. That thrills me to hear that.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that has benefited this is it's really given me the opportunity to branch out. As somebody who's not from the area, this really gave me the opportunity to kind of grow, and that's something I wouldn't have done by myself. So as much as I did jump up and help with these things and take a lot of leadership and responsibility, if I wouldn't have, I would have sat at home and done nothing, essentially. So this gave me that opportunity to go out and find people that, like Bella said, are my age. And it's hard to find that group, and I think this has really given me that opportunity to find that group. So
not only have your UNLH community, but now you've got your Midwest Thunder Midget community too. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. I know, like we've talked with Christian and Bella, how busy you guys are, not only at the track, but away from the track. But Audrey, I also understand that you've been active in the Jesse Combs Foundation. So can you talk about that a little bit, about who Jessie was and what her legacy means to you?
absolutely. So Jesse Combs is somebody that I didn't necessarily really understand who she was until 4 or 5 years ago. My dad had followed her through a lot of stuff. She did a lot of motorcycle stuff, did a lot of off-road stuff, rally stuff. She's a welder, fabricator, anything you could imagine, and she did it all as a trailblazer, not letting any barriers be the barriers that, oh, you're a girl, you should be different. And that is something that I really carry to my core. As somebody who's different, it's good for me to see that, but it gives me the opportunity to prove for someone else that you can be different. And Jessie had an accident in 2019. As a land speed record, she set the record for the fastest woman on four wheels, but in doing so, the car that she was in crashed and she did not make it through. And later that year, there was a group of people around her, friends, family, that created a foundation that gives out scholarships every year. And I was thankful to have received one of those in 2024. I've now been with the I've been with the foundation for 2 years now. And they give scholarships to girls that are doing things where they're not in a dominant space. And so that has really given me the opportunity to grow and find a community there as well. But Jessie was that person that was just a light in everybody's world that she was in. You could walk up to her and, hey, hi, how are you? And she would talk to you. She wasn't gonna, oh, you're, whatever. I met her in 2016, I think, at PRI when my dad made me go talk to her. And I had no idea at the time who she was. But now it's like, oh, I met Jessie. Now it's one of those things you're like, okay, now you have the connection back. And that's one of those things that it was just somebody now you're like, wow, that was really cool. And to see that effort where she followed the path that a lot of people hadn't created yet. And she got to create that path that we now as the scholarship girls get to continue forging and continue carrying the torch down that path and making it a wider path for people down the road.
Well, and kind of on that note, what advice would you have for young girls interested in participating in racing?
I think the biggest thing for me, and it's something that I still even tell myself, is the only limits that you have are the ones you put on yourself. Growing up, I never had somebody say, oh, that's a boy job, or oh, that's, if there was something that needed done on our cars, it just got done. It wasn't, oh, we're going to do this, but you're going to do that one because you're a girl, or oh, you're not going to do that. So it's really what you put on yourself and how you interpret that. So I wrote down notes because this was important. As long as you're keeping your, where you're headed moving forward, and the biggest thing is trying everything. If you don't try something, you're never going to know whether you liked it or not. That was like me getting my Harley license. I was like, well, I think I'd like a motorcycle, so let's go do that. And if I don't like it, I don't like it. Oh well. And so, it's just one of those things. You just have to continue pushing forward. And as long as you continue to try to make steps forward, you're going to make steps forward.
Yeah, very well put. Greg, we've got introduced to Christian and Bella and Audrey here. Just talk about how having them added to your team has impacted the series.
Yeah, thank you. And you mentioned that Journey concert, and the clock's ticking. My wife's sending me pictures of the band on stage. So I am going to have to exit stage right here in a second. But, first off, I guess just hearing the stories makes me appreciate them even more than I did before. I knew that they all three have been a huge asset to our organization. Definitely made us better in many ways. And I think that's what Chuck and I are always striving for. We don't have a plan per se. Life's an experiment. You try things. You try your own announcer, and that works out. You try a TikTok, social media approach, and that works. You try to address your shortage of, helping hands, and you connect and you're able to have an impact with students at UNOH. So that's huge. It's all been a great thing. I think everyone thinks about racing from a driver's perspective, and I get that. I was fortunate to have a period of time where I got to drive as well. But I think like year one, I realized I was never going to be, some big time race car driver, but I knew I had talents that I could bring to the industry in other ways. So I drug out the racing as long as I could. But, what really made a difference when I look back now is the fact that by being on the business end of racing, I've got to meet so many people across the 30, 40 years I've been doing this that have become my friends, that have been a great influence to me. And I'd like to think by the role that I played in racing, I was able to be an influence to them. So, I just really credit these guys for the job they're doing. I'm confident all three are going to go on to bigger, I'm not going to say better, but the opportunities will be there for them. But in the meantime, there's always going to be people that were a part of the Midwest Thunder Midget group that will think back about them and know that they had an impact, on those people's lives. So with that, I'm going to exit stage right now and hustle down and go to this concert with my wife. And I'm sure you guys will be in good hands with Josh to wrap this thing up. Thanks, everyone.
See you, Greg.
Thanks, Greg.
See you
Enjoy
later.
the concert.
Thank you.
All right. Now, while Greg steps away, you guys are left with me. The good thing is we got some roundtable questions. And I think what we're going to do, it's about a handful of questions, kind of a roundtable / rapid fire, if you will. I think what we'll do is we'll go alphabetical order by first name. So, Audrey, you're going to get to go first. Bella, you'll be second. and
ABC.
Christian,
Woohoo.
you'll be
That
third.
makes it easy.
That's right. That's right. So, first question, Audrey, what is your favorite track to visit as part of the USAC Midwest Thunder Midget Series? I've said it time and time again, and I'll continue to say it until they prove me wrong. Every time they come out with a schedule, it's always a great schedule, always tracks I love to see at. Is there one that jumps out at you?
If I have to pick one, Atomic.
Ooh.
Only because it is very similar to a track that we have at home that I won a handful of my first races at, and it's like everything about the place is just very race car-esque, and that's like the one place I'm like, okay,
All right.
that's on the list.
Nice. I like it. Bella, what about you?
I would say, and I'm only gonna say this because before I got this title and got into all this, I am a racer's daughter. So I am where dad does good, where dad this, that, and we love Moeller. I love Moeller. Everybody has their own opinions. I always like seeing dad at Moeller, and I just like, I don't know, something about it. I'm just like, yeah, I like it here. I don't know what it is, but yeah.
I saw your dad race a few times last year, and They had a rocket ship at a couple different tracks that weren't Moeller, so
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
That true.
Christian, what about you?
I just want to touch on the Moeller thing real quick. Moeller is a track that I just discovered when I started traveling with the D2s. It's a great facility, great management. I love going there. But my personal favorite is Lawrenceburg. I love going to Lawrenceburg. I love calling races there. The speed is unbelievable. It's we're going there twice this year as well, so I'm very excited for that.
Very nice, very nice. All right, Audrey, we're back to you. Do you have a favorite memory related to the USAC Midwest Thunder Midgets?
I think it's hard for me because I've only been with them the 12 nights that we got to run this year. I think Eldora's Family Fun Night was pretty cool. Where we got to take everybody up and take pictures and put kids in cars. That's always been my favorite thing about going to tracks and doing things. I like going to touch trucks and stuff where you get to put kids in the cars. So that's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah. Well, and it makes it even cooler. I'm biased, but it makes it even cooler when it's at Eldora, right?
Yeah, that helps.
All right, Bella, what about you?
I will say mine is actually recent. It's from this past season, and I will lead it with Dad's 2-time at Montpelier, but it's only because there's a story behind it. So that weekend, I had been playing a volleyball tournament in Vincennes, Indiana, all weekend, and when we got our original rain out of Montpelier, whatever day that was, and it was going to get added onto that second one, I was like, I can't miss it. Like, I have to go. And it was going to be the Saturday of my volleyball tournament. Well, of course, Dad was already going to be there. I was doing the math on my couch. I was like, Mom, like, can we go? Like, still asking, like, permission, like, Mom, I have to go. Like, kind of, like, pushing it, like, I don't really care what you say. I'm going to find a way. So Vincennes is 4 hours from Montpelier. I got out of my volleyball tournament at 2 or 3, I think, and my mom was there, and I kinda gave her the look, and I was like, "Are we going?" And she was like, "I'm not driving, you can drive." I was like, "Alright, let's go." I hopped in the car. I drove the 4 hours to Montpelier after playing the volleyball tournament all weekend. We got there, we were walking in as Dad was on the track for heat races. I was like, "Okay, we're chilling, we're doing good." The original show, the one that got rained out, I had no faith because Mom had drew the 9 for that race, and she was scolded the whole night. She was like, "You've got to be kidding me." I was like, I have no faith from Dad coming from 9th after the first one. Like, I have no faith. Well, he won the first one, and I was like, okay. And then he went out, and Christian, me being in the booth, I was like, is this actually about to happen right now? When he was like going, I kept like looking at him. I was like, no way, no way. And so he won both, and that was kind of cool for me just because I had begged my mom to get us there somehow, whether she wanted to go or not. And then he ended up doing that, and it was the last race of the season, so it was just kind of a fun party or whatever afterwards, and it was really cool.
The only bad thing about that was he had a great showing at Montpelier. If it wasn't for him missing the race at Lincoln Park just a few weeks before that, there's a good chance he would have won the championship last year as well. So it was, though that weekend was fun to watch, it was a whole bunch of what ifs too.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah, you're right about that, and it's funny, Bella, and I can't remember. I want to say it was this past season, but I can't remember. But there was a time that I was talking to your dad at the track, and he was telling me about you couldn't be there because you had volleyball, and I want to say it was this past season. I can't remember, but
yeah, there was definitely some schedule conflictions there, but I'm graduated now from college, so I'm officially like this whole summer I'm at the racetrack. I'm, as of right now, only missing one, and it's because I'm going to country concert. I'm not missing country concert, sorry. But and Christian gets that because he goes to concerts all the time, so he can't even yell at me. And so, but as of right now, that's the only one I'm missing. I was thankful for volleyball to be over and me to be able to get there every time. So, yeah.
There you go. All right, Christian, what's your favorite memory related to the series?
Yeah, my favorite memory is my first Flow broadcast. It was at Gas City. I was not working for the series at the time, but I was calling their race as a support division for Indiana Speed Week. I think it was my second race calling for the D2s, but again, I wasn't officially with this series. But that was my first time working with Chet Christner with USAC. It was a lot of fun. I learned so much that day that I still carry with me. So that's probably my favorite memory that I have.
Very cool. Very cool. Back to you, Audrey. Has there been anybody that you met while working with the Midwest Thunder Midgets that just means a little bit more to you? Somebody that you've developed a good friendship with, or somebody that kind of stands out to you as somebody you could turn to?
I think I've met so many people. I don't know who's important and who's not anymore. So, um, I think just being able to like see the management at tracks and just generally getting to be on the back side of that and having those connections now is a big part of something that I'm very happy to have in the series.
Bella, what about you?
Um, kind of going back to my answers from earlier, definitely I would just, instead of calling them drivers, like my friends, all the groups that I mentioned earlier, obviously I've been friends with them since we joined the series until now, and like I said, they're still like my actual friends outside the track. Like we don't just speak out, we have group chats and all the things of all that and hang out all the time. And honestly, Dad's crew, Kyle Heitmeyer, Fogg. We actually have another Luke on our team, so Luke as well, and their families and their kids and um, everyone that just helps us out. That's a really special group. We also do things together outside of the track. I mean, they've kind of just been like a new family friend group to us, and we travel and all the stuff. So they've been really important to me. And these two, they've become my newest little besties, whether they want to be my besties or not, they're going to be. So they've kind of just been my little text buddies on the side too. Like, oh my gosh, did you see that? Half the time me and Audrey are at the track and are like, why can't these guys get this done? Or like, why is this not happening? Like, what's going on? And obviously
Mel and I
Christian
just take over
is,
sometimes.
yeah. And obviously Christian's kind of stuck with me. So they're kind of my two little
My
besties
own
as
fault.
well. Which is true.
Well, Christian, I'll let you expand on that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Audrey and Bella are great, and I enjoy the connection I made with the two of them. But I have to, give a huge shout out to Jerry Keyser from Lima Land. He's one that their announcer. I work well with him. I consider him a good friend. He's covered for me. I mentioned earlier I tend to double book myself sometimes, so there's been times where I need to find a replacement for a show. And he's covered me before, and I know I can always count on him. And then Pat Sullivan, a legendary voice when it comes to motorsports, especially with USAC, now the announcer at several different racetracks, Bloomington, Indy Raceway Park, and Lincoln Park. I consider him a good friend as well. He's reached out to me several times and offered me advice, and it's cool to have those friendships that I've met through the series.
Very good. Audrey, what can we expect in way of new projects or enhancement or suggestions that you've made that you would like to see implemented in 2026 with the USAC Midwest Thunder Midgets?
The continuation of the use of my race pass. I was at a race a couple weeks ago that we did not use my race pass. And I'm very thankful that the series does use my race pass because it was a lot to not have my race pass to bounce off of. So I think that was a very good thing. I think just the continuation of just improvements with the series. I think we're headed in a really good direction, and I'm really excited for the tech committee thing, whatever that rule change was. That's gonna be nice because some of that sort of fell on me a little bit. So kind of having some of that taken off of me a little bit will hopefully help some of that a little bit.
Well, sealing the motors should lighten the load for a few folks. I think it's a good thing that they're going to do, and I can't disagree with the My Race Pass thing either. I think those are both
I
good
think
things.
it helps from the driver standpoint too. As from being on the other side of that, I think having the driver side of that helps kind of some of what I do in the series too. So
yeah, definitely. Bella, what do you think?
So I'm very excited of this part of the question. So I have actually not told anyone this yet besides, my household, and when I'm rambling on ideas and this and that my mom and dad have to hear every single day. I'm like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And they're just like, can you just tone it down a little bit? But so I'm actually, I guess we could say, implementing 3 new series to the TikToks this year. I'm still going to be doing the regular, interviews, jokes, questions, like on race day. But I am also doing a series called Rookie Diaries. So that's going to be showcasing all our rookies for this season. Me and Greg had kind of talked about this earlier, that we really wanted to highlight them in a way, and so kind of get their names out there, like get the ball rolling, most would say, for them. So that's going to be kind of behind the scenes clips of their crew, their race nights, whether it goes good or bad, and kind of just them navigating the life as a rookie in this series. So that's going to be one. And then Josh, I've kind of talked to you about this, and these two know about this one actually, but fan of the week, I'm really excited about that, obviously, with engagement director, kind of just getting the fans involved, rewarding them for actually coming to tracks. I know flow racing is huge, and I love flow racing myself, but it does take people away from, the grandstands and stuff. So I want to just kind of really highlight the people who have been coming to races for years, or are decked out in shirts and hats and all this stuff, and kind of just give them stuff from drivers or from the tracks, or stuff like that, just to kind of hopefully keep fans just coming to racetracks and letting them know that our series does thank them for coming and showing up and that stuff. And then the last one is the Monday Crew Connection, and I only say Monday because that's the day that's going to be posted. But that's going to be like a behind the scenes of the behind the scenes. So I already do behind the scenes of, the drivers and stuff. I just really want to get involved with their crews, track crews, other people who are in the booth other than me and Christian, people who do the sound and the other things, just kind of if they ever want to get a quick little input or interview, safety crews, just people like that, kind of just little quick interview questions or whatever, just to kind of get a bunch of different people involved, and hope that not only gains our following, but gains people wanting to come to the track and see what this is about, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping all that does really well.
Yeah, a lot of cool things there. And you talk about those interviews there at the end, and that's kind of where I sit, is everybody's got a story. And I've told Greg this, and I think I've told some of you this, is that the story that you tell, the stories that you could tell of the drivers and of the series, that's really where things are. That's the cool stuff. I mean, don't get me wrong, race cars, fast, all that, loud. We love that, right? But the stories that come with it are just as good. So that's going to be some cool stuff coming from you in 2026. Christian, what do you got going on for 2026?
It's not really something new. It's something that I want to do a better job at doing. And that is one of my favorite things to do at the racetrack, is to do the redraw in front of the stands. It's always in our pamphlet that we send to the track. This is something that we want to do if time allows, but then we kind of just let it go. We don't really put much pressure on the track. And I understand it from a time commitment standpoint, but we could knock that out in 5 minutes doing the redraw. So that's something I really hope that we can maybe put our foot down a little bit more and say, hey, it's going to take us 5 minutes, whether it's in between heat races for classes or at intermission. Let us do this, because we can have the whole lineups already worked out. All we have to do is change the top 9, I believe. I think it's 9 that redraw on a regular basis. I think it's more fun for the fans for us to go down there, do it in person, do a quick interview. We only do it maybe a couple times a year where we're actually in front of the stands, although every race it's our goal to do it in front of the stands. So if you're a promoter at one of the tracks we're going to and you're watching or listening to this, please let us do the redraw in front of the stands this year.
Yeah, like you said, you don't push it a whole lot and they'll kind of let it go. But if you've got it laid out and organized ahead of time, it's really not going to affect the time.
Yeah.
That
I think
much.
5 minutes is we could do it less than 5 minutes. I mean, I'm not asking them to, I'm not asking 3 questions. I'm asking a quick question. All right, here's where you start, and then move on. So hopefully we have some luck with that.
Yeah, very cool. Good to hear all the ideas you guys have for 2026. Audrey, moving forward in 5 years, where would you like to be in terms of your professional development? Where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
That's a hard question that I hate answering, but I think as long as I'm around the race car world in some way, I think my as I said earlier, my thought on where I'm headed has kind of changed a little bit. But I think as long as I have the opportunity to be around some sort of race cars, I will be happy. Whether it's in a crew or a driver or a social media aspect, be it that or whatever it requires, I think I would be happy just around race cars.
Bella, what about you?
So a lot of people don't think this when they look at me or before they know me, but my degree is actually in criminal justice. So that's a little fun fact for you. But I'm kind of with Audrey. Since I've kind of gotten on this path, I would be more than happy to continue this, whether that's running a social media or running the behind the scenes, announcing whatever comes down the line or whatever. I would be more than happy. But my criminal justice degree is kind of just for me to fall back on if I have to get like a boring everyday grown up job thing, whatever. That would be that. That stuff's always interested me since I was in high school. So that's what I went for. That's what I was passionate about at the time. And then obviously this kind of fell into my lap, and I sit and reflect and I'm like, hey, I really think I could be good at this. Like this could be a good thing, and maybe just expand on that a little bit. But the true answer is I really don't know. So we will see.
You've got a plan. Let me let you in on a little secret. None of us really know.
Yeah.
Christian, what about you? 5 years from now, what do you see?
Yeah, I still want to be traveling. For me, it's really a year. I've had so much bad luck in this sport. As much as I love it, it's broken my heart so many times with tracks closing down, losing opportunities because of those tracks closing down or promoters retiring. This is the first stability I've had in my career, so I hope it continues to go that way. But 5 years from now, I'm single, no kids. I don't expect that to change in the next 5 years, so I'm open to travel as much as possible. So whether it's on a national level, which obviously I don't think is an obtainable goal, just because there's just so few opportunities, but even maybe a more regional level. But this is something that I love doing, so I'm hoping to still be traveling as a announcer or even a reporter of some sort in the next 5 years.
Very nice. Very nice. All right. Tied you guys up for a while. Last one we got. Audrey, who has had the greatest influence on you? Who helped you get to where you are today?
110% my dad. And there's no questions asked about that. He has been the rock that I bounce stuff off of, the person that my mom swears that him and I share a brain. And if you're ever around us, you would probably think the same. Just the way that him and I interact, and he's always been the one person that has never stopped me from doing anything, even if it might have been stupid. Has always pushed and given me every opportunity and set up stuff where I don't even think 3 steps ahead and he thinks 8 steps ahead down the road. And there's stuff that happens at college that I'm like, God, I hate it when my dad's right. I hate it when you hear that little voice in your head of him going, well, this is why we did it this way. And you go, you're right. And then you go do it that way. It's because he did it for a reason. And I understand now why he did it for a reason. I hated him at the time, but looking back at everything that he's done for me in the last 20 years has been nothing but success that he has seen down the road for me, and that's all he wants. And I think that's been my biggest thing is having that and having somebody to fall back onto and having somebody that can push forward even when I don't want to move forward.
Very well said. Very well said. Bella, what about you?
I know this is like a really basic answer, but I don't really know what else to say. But my mom and dad, they've given me every opportunity that I've ever had, whether like it was me going to play in college or this racing thing. Obviously, my dad gave me a lot of opportunities in racing and all that, but I'm very much the connection of both of them. I have my mom's like, okay, let's think this through, let's organize this, let's plan this out. And then if you've met my dad, I have my dad's, let's go, what are we doing after this? Like, we got to do something fun, all that. So I'm very much the middle part of both of them. And I think just their influences and their personalities and how they've raised me to be who I am and not really be afraid of what anybody else has to say, or this is your life and you should live it how you want to live it. And that's kind of how they both are and how they've raised me and my siblings to be. So that's kind of how our household works. And I think it's very influential to not only me, but I can put that into my opportunities on my own life, even when I'm completely grown and move out, and put it in my kids and my future household. But I think their influence has just been very steady throughout my whole life, and I hold it with me very closely in a lot that I do.
Very good. Very good. Christian?
Yeah, as much as I love my parents, my mom and dad are great. They've done so much for me. I'm gonna go a little different route. For me, it's the grumpy, stubborn Larry Bowes. I know I mentioned him earlier, but he's done so much for my career, so much for the sport. He drives me so crazy every time we interact, but he's given me so many, or a lot of really good advice, things to do, things not to do. He's not always negative with me. Hey, next time maybe try this, or hey, you did this really well. Since 2018, he's taken me everywhere that he's gone. I did the infield work at the Rumble this year with him, and he really is a really, really good guy. Very set in his ways, but he has so much experience and so much knowledge that he's passed on to me. I will forever be grateful for everything that he has done for me and everything that I have learned from him.
Yeah. A lot of work he's done, and I'm not going to pretend to know all of it. I just know some of it. Actually got to see him. He was involved in kind of a roundtable, if you will, at PRI, around tracks, specifically small tracks, and how do you keep them moving forward. So he's always working on that stuff, from that to the DARF banquet. I mean, at the racetrack, you'd name it, and Larry's around. So yeah, well said by each and every one of you. Well, guys, it's been an hour and a half. I think we're going to wrap it up. I've got Christian Dunn here, USAC Midwest Thunder Midget announcer, Bella Hall, social media engagement director, and Audrey Gerberding, UNOH student race director with USAC Midwest Thunder Midgets. This is Josh, and we hope to see you guys at the track.